Here it says Caitlin Clark is 24. She's a shining star, but I do think as she continues to matriculate through the league, there's room for a little bit more accountability, self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood if she sees it that way in the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark has just done something that the entire WNBA establishment did not see coming. She has officially, completely, and without any apology whatsoever, denied the WNBA sisterhood. Flat out. Done. Over. And the sports world is absolutely losing its mind right now. Hello everyone and welcome back to WNBA X Trie. I am so glad you are here today because I am back with another exciting and incredibly informative video that I genuinely hope you are going to enjoy from start to finish. And listen, make sure you stay with me all the way to the very end of this one because you will not want to miss what is coming. There is so much to unpack here today. We have the Caitlin Clark sisterhood bombshell. We have the Monica McNutt fallout. We have a Seattle reporter claiming she is receiving death threats connected to a Sophie Cunningham pre-game rally. And we have a WNBA that is more chaotic and more dramatic than has ever been in its entire history. So without wasting any more of your time, let's jump straight into it. Okay. So let's set the scene here, because context is everything. You already know that Caitlin Clark is the single most important athlete in the WNBA right now. She is not just the most important player on the Indiana Fever, she is the most important player in the entire league. She is the reason television ratings have exploded. She is the reason arena attendance records are being shattered coast to coast. She is the reason sponsors are pouring money into a league that, let's be honest, was completely stagnant before she arrived. This is not an opinion. This is a fact that even the people who cannot stand Caitlin Clark have to quietly admit when nobody is watching. And yet, there are people inside and outside of this league who have spent the better part of the last year trying to drag this 24-year-old woman down. Trying to load her up with burdens she never asked to carry, trying to make her responsible for problems she absolutely did not create, and Caitlin Clark has just drawn the most definitive line in the sand we have ever seen from a WNBA player. She is done with it. She is completely and totally done. Now here is where this story really starts. We all know what happened at WNBA All-Star Weekend. Caitlin Clark showed up for her obligations. She met with her shoe brand. She met President Obama. She played in the actual All-Star game. And the moment that game was over, she was on a plane, gone, out of there. She did not hang around for the parties. She did not hang around for the social events. She did not mix and mingle with the other players in the way that some people in the media apparently expected her to. And here is the thing, she does not owe anybody that. She does not owe anybody her time, her energy, or her presence at events that have nothing to do with her professional obligations. But the old guard of the WNBA, the veterans, the media voices who have been circling Caitlin Clark like vultures since the day she was drafted, they saw her leave All-Star Weekend early and they decided to make it a story. They decided to turn it into some kind of referendum on whether Caitlin Clark is a good teammate, a good person, a good member of the so-called sisterhood, and that is where Monica McNutt comes in. Now, Monica McNutt went on ESPN right after Caitlin Clark's interview with Malika Andrews, and she used that platform to suggest that Caitlin Clark needs to show more accountability, more self-awareness, more investment in the so-called larger sisterhood of the WNBA. Let that sink in for a second. This woman, this 24-year-old who has done more for the WNBA in one single season than most players do in an entire career, is being told she needs to be more accountable. To a sisterhood that has done nothing but make her life harder since the moment she stepped foot in this league. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And Caitlin Clark's response to all of this, it was not a press conference, it was not a long social media post, it was something far more powerful. It was her actions, her silence, her refusal to engage, and that refusal speaks louder than any words ever could. Let's play that clip right now, because you need to hear exactly what Monica McNutt said, and you need to understand just how outrageous this take really is.
It says if sisterhood means one woman has to carry the weight of the entire league while everyone else gets the benefit of grace, then that's not sisterhood. It's selective accountability. You can't demand unity while expecting a 24-year-old to fix problems she didn't create.
Did you hear that? She is 24 years old, she is a shining star, but there is room for more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood. I want you to really sit with that for a moment. Because what Monica McNutt is essentially saying is that Caitlin Clark, the woman who is single-handedly responsible for the financial revival of this entire league, needs to do more, needs to give more, needs to sacrifice more. For a sisterhood that has given her absolutely nothing in return except hostility, jealousy, and drama. That is not sisterhood, that is exploitation. And Caitlin Clark sees it for exactly what it is. And here is what the fanbase and the broader sports community are saying in response to this. The commentary that has been flooding social media since this all went down is absolutely volcanic. People are pointing out, correctly, that you cannot demand unity from one person while the rest of the group refuses to hold itself accountable. You cannot ask a 24-year-old to carry the weight of an entire league on her shoulders and then criticize her for not smiling big enough while she does it. The phrase that keeps coming up over and over again is this: it is not sisterhood, it is selective accountability. And that phrase is resonating with people because it is 100% accurate. If the sisterhood was real, if it was genuine, then it would protect Caitlin Clark the same way it apparently expects Caitlin Clark to protect everyone else. But that is not what has happened. What has happened is that Caitlin Clark has been the target. She has been the scapegoat. She has been the person that certain veterans and certain media voices point to whenever they need someone to blame. And she is done with it. Completely and totally done. Now let's talk about what this means in the bigger picture, because this is not just about one weekend or one interview or one ESPN segment. This is about a fundamental power shift that is happening inside the WNBA right now. The old guard, the veterans, the establishment voices, the people who ran this league before Caitlin Clark arrived, they are losing their grip, they can feel it, and that is exactly why they are pushing back so hard, because when Caitlin Clark walks into a building, she is the show. She is the reason people bought tickets. She is the reason the cameras are there. She is the reason the sponsors are happy, and that terrifies the people who used to be in control. So they dress it up in language about sisterhood and accountability and self-awareness, but what they are really saying is, get back in line. And Caitlin Clark's answer to that is a hard, resounding no. Here is another clip you need to hear, because this one captures the heart of the entire situation perfectly.
I've grown used to turning my credentials backwards during Fever games here in Seattle so fans wouldn't recognize me. But now I'm fully afraid to go to the game tomorrow and might just skip it completely since I received multiple death threats from this group last week.
If sisterhood means one woman has to carry the weight of the entire league while everyone else gets to benefit from the grace, then that is not sisterhood. It is selective accountability. You cannot demand unity while expecting a 24-year-old to fix problems she did not create. I mean, how do you argue with that? You cannot. You literally cannot argue with that, because it is the truth. It is the plain, simple, undeniable truth. And the fact that it even needs to be said is a testament to just how unfair and how one-sided this whole situation has been from the very beginning. And let's be very clear about something else here, because there is another layer to this story that people keep dancing around but nobody wants to say directly. The people who are demanding accountability from Caitlin Clark, they are not actually asking for accountability. Think about what accountability would even mean in this context. What exactly is Caitlin Clark supposed to be accountable for? She has not done anything wrong. She has not said anything wrong. She has not treated anyone badly. She has not been anything other than a professional, hard-working, extraordinarily talented basketball player who shows up every single game and gives everything she has. So what is the accountability for? What is the apology for? What is the self-awareness supposed to fix? The answer is nothing. Because this was never about accountability. This was never about sisterhood. This is about the fact that Caitlin Clark's very existence in this league exposes certain uncomfortable truths, and there are people who would rather tear her down than face those truths. And that is the most honest thing I can tell you about this entire situation. Now, Caitlin Clark has said herself, and this is a quote that hit the internet like a freight train. She said, "Honestly, this is emotionally exhausting. When I walk out of the locker room, I should not be fearful of what the conversation is going to be. It is draining. Let that sink in." This young woman, this generational talent, who has given this league everything, is walking out of locker rooms feeling drained and fearful of what people are going to say about her next. That is not okay. That is not what a healthy, functioning professional sports league looks like. And the fact that the league itself has not stepped in to protect one of its most valuable assets is frankly one of the most irresponsible things I have seen in sports in a very long time. But here is the thing about Caitlin Clark that makes her different from everyone else in this situation. She is not crumbling under the pressure. She is not going on social media to cry about it. She is not calling press conferences to defend herself. She is doing exactly what a champion does. She is letting her game do the talking. She is showing up, putting up numbers, selling out arenas, and moving forward. And every time the old guard tries to drag her back into the drama, she simply refuses to go. That refusal, that quiet, powerful, dignified refusal, is the loudest statement she could possibly make. And it is absolutely driving her critics crazy, because they want a reaction. They want her to engage. They want her to get pulled into the mud, and she will not do it. She is too smart for that. She is too focused for that. She is too great for that. Now let's pivot to the second massive story that is swirling around this whole situation, because there is something happening in Seattle that you absolutely need to know about, and it is connected to everything we have been talking about. There was reportedly a pre-game rally planned in Seattle ahead of the Indiana Fever versus Seattle Storm game, and this rally was described as being in support of Sophie Cunningham and her public statements about transgender athletes in women's sports. Now, Sophie Cunningham, as many of you know, has been one of the most outspoken players in the WNBA on this particular issue. She has made her position very clear and very public, and that has generated an enormous amount of controversy and reaction from all sides. But here is where it gets even crazier. A Seattle-based reporter, and there is some debate online about whether she is actually a credentialed reporter or not, but she is describing herself as a reporter. She came out and made a stunning claim. She said that she has received multiple death threats from the group organising this rally. Multiple death threats. She also said that she has grown so used to covering Fever games in Seattle that she turns her press credentials backwards so that fans will not recognise her. And now she says she is fully afraid to even attend the game. Let that sink in. We are at a point where someone covering a WNBA game says they are afraid to go to the arena. That is an extraordinary claim, and if it is true, it is deeply serious and deeply troubling.
What they are saying, but what I do believe is that when it comes to Caitlin Clark don't need to say nothing about nothing no more. Caitlin Clark has said enough. Caitlin Clark just needs to play basketball and do her thing.
Now, I want to be very careful here because we have to deal in facts and not speculation. The claim of death threats is being made on social media, and as far as we know, it has not been independently verified. And the very first question that anyone should be asking, the very first thing, is whether this has been reported to law enforcement. Because if someone is genuinely receiving death threats, the answer is not to post about it on X or Threads. The answer is to call the police. Full stop. That is the responsible thing to do. That is the only thing that actually protects you and potentially leads to consequences for the people making those threats. So we genuinely hope that if these threats are real, the proper authorities have been contacted and are investigating. Because nobody should be receiving death threats. Nobody. Full stop. Regardless of what side of any issue you are on, that kind of behavior is completely unacceptable and it should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But here is where this story connects back to Caitlin Clark in a very important way, because some people online are trying to drag Caitlin Clark into this narrative. They are trying to make her responsible, either directly or indirectly, for the atmosphere that has developed around Fever games and around the WNBA in general. And that is absolutely, completely, 100% unfair. Caitlin Clark has nothing to do with any rally. Caitlin Clark has nothing to do with any threats. Caitlin Clark has not endorsed any group or any position that would lead to anything like this. She is a basketball player. She plays basketball. And the idea that she should be held responsible for the behavior of fans she has no control over, fans she has never organized, fans she has never directed to do anything, is one of the most absurd logical leaps I have ever seen in sports media. And yet here we are. This is the pattern, people. This is exactly the pattern we have been watching play out all season long. Something controversial happens anywhere in the vicinity of the WNBA, and within hours there are voices trying to connect it to Caitlin Clark, trying to make her the villain, trying to assign her responsibility for things she had absolutely nothing to do with. It is relentless, it is exhausting, and it says far more about the people doing it than it says about Caitlin Clark. Because Caitlin Clark is out here just trying to play basketball, just trying to do her job, just trying to be great. And every single day, there is a new attempt to pull her into some controversy that she did not create and does not belong to her. And what has Caitlin Clark said about all of this? She has said she does not need to say anything more, and she is right. She has already said enough. She has already been more gracious, more patient, more professional than most people in her position would ever be. She has answered the questions, she has given the interviews, she has tried to be diplomatic and thoughtful and measured in everything she says. And it has not mattered, because the people who want to criticize her are going to criticize her regardless of what she says or does. So the smartest thing she can do, the most powerful thing she can do, is exactly what she is doing right now. Play basketball, win games, build her brand, inspire millions of young fans, and let the noise fade into the background where it belongs. Let's talk about the social media reaction to all of this, because it has been absolutely explosive. The sports internet is completely divided right now, and both sides are coming in hot. On one side, you have the fans and the commentators who are fully in Caitlin Clark's corner. They are saying, correctly, that she owes this league nothing beyond her performance on the court. They are pointing out that she has already transformed the WNBA in ways that nobody else has been able to do in decades. They are calling out the double standard, the hypocrisy, the selective accountability that gets applied to her and only to her. They are furious, and honestly, their fury is completely justified, because the treatment that Caitlin Clark has received from certain corners of this league is unlike anything we have ever seen a player go through in professional sports. On the other side, you have the people who genuinely believe that Caitlin Clark has a responsibility to use her platform more actively, that she should be more vocal, that she should be more engaged with the league community, that her silence on certain issues is itself a kind of statement. And look, I understand that perspective, even if I do not agree with it. There is a legitimate conversation to be had about what responsibilities come with the kind of platform that Caitlin Clark has. But here is the thing, that conversation has to be fair, it has to be balanced. It has to apply the same standard to every player in the league, and right now, it absolutely does not. Right now, the standard is being applied to Caitlin Clark and Caitlin Clark alone, and that is not a conversation about responsibility, that is a witch hunt. And more people are starting to see it for exactly what it is, the accountability that people like Monica McNutt are calling for. Where is that same energy directed at the veterans who have made Caitlin Clark's life harder? Where is the call for accountability from the players who have been openly hostile? Where is the call for self-awareness from the voices who have been piling on a 24-year-old since the day she was drafted? It is nowhere, because this was never about accountability. It was always about something else, and Caitlin Clark knows it, her fans know it, and increasingly, the broader sports world is starting to figure it out too. Now let's zoom out for a second and look at the biggest picture here. Because what is happening with Caitlin Clark right now is not just a WNBA story. It is a story about what happens when a transcendent talent arrives in a place that is not quite ready for them. It is a story about jealousy and fear and the desperate attempt by an old guard to maintain relevance in the face of something genuinely new and genuinely great. We have seen this story before in sports. We have seen it happen to players who came along and changed everything and were resented for it by the people whose world they disrupted. And every single time, history has vindicated the transcendent talent. Every single time. The old guard fades, the noise dies down. And what is left is the legacy of the player who is great enough to survive all of it. That is going to be Caitlin Clark's story. I am absolutely certain of it. She is going to come out the other side of all this drama and all this noise and all this manufactured controversy, and she is going to be standing there with her records and her rings and her legacy completely intact, because she is that good, because she is that focused, because she is that determined, and no amount of sisterhood pressure or ESPN commentary or social media outrage is going to change that. Not even close. What we are witnessing right now, this moment, this season, this drama, is going to be talked about for decades. Sports historians are going to look back at this period and they are going to marvel at what Caitlin Clark endured and how she handled it. They are going to point to this as the moment when the WNBA either evolved or exposed itself. And Caitlin Clark is going to be at the center of that story as the hero. As the person who showed up every single day, did her job at an elite level, refused to be dragged into the mud, and came out the other side as the greatest thing that ever happened to this league. The sisterhood that Monica McNutt and others are talking about, Caitlin Clark does not need it. She has something far more powerful. She has the support of millions of fans across the country and around the world who see exactly what is happening and who are behind her 100%. She has the respect of the broader sports world. She has a brand that is growing by the day. She has a game that speaks for itself every single time she steps on the court. And she has the kind of mental toughness that most athletes spend their entire careers trying to develop. She already has it at 24 years old. That is what makes her different. That is what makes her special. That is what makes her the most important player in the WNBA right now and for the foreseeable future.
Here it says Caitlin Clark is 24. She's a shining star, but I do think as she continues to matriculate through the league, there's room for a little bit more accountability, self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood if she sees it that way in the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark just needs to play basketball and do her thing, and that is exactly what she is going to do. Because at the end of the day, the basketball court is where all of this gets settled. It is where the truth comes out. It is where the noise disappears and what is left is pure talent and pure will and pure greatness. And on that court, Caitlin Clark has absolutely nothing to prove to anyone. She has already proven everything. She proved it in college. She proved it in her rookie season. She has proven it again right now, and she is going to keep proving it for years and years to come, no matter what anyone says about her off the court. So let's just be very clear about where things stand right now. Caitlin Clark has officially rejected the Wnba Sisterhood narrative. She showed that with her actions at All-Star Weekend. She showed it with her words in her interview with Malika Andrews. She showed it with her refusal to engage with the drama that Monica McNutt and others tried to stir up. She is drawing a line, a very clear, very definitive line. And she is saying, I am here to play basketball. I am here to be great. I am here to inspire people. And I am not here to carry the weight of a league full of problems that I did not create and cannot control. That is the statement. That is the message. And it is one of the most powerful, most important statements any athlete has made in professional sports in a very long time. And the Sophie Cunningham situation, the Seattle rally, the death threat claims, all of that is swirling around in the background, adding even more chaos and drama to an already explosive situation. The WNBA right now is a powder keg. And Caitlin Clark is somehow managing to rise above all of it, stay focused, stay professional, and keep delivering on the court. That is remarkable. That is genuinely remarkable. And it deserves to be recognized and celebrated, not criticized. The bottom line is this. Caitlin Clark is the best thing that has ever happened to the WNBA. She is the most marketable, most talented, most exciting player this league has ever seen. And instead of embracing that and building around it, there are people inside and outside this league who are trying to tear it down. And they are failing. They are going to keep failing because you cannot stop what Caitlin Clark is. You cannot slow down what she is building. You cannot dim a light that bright no matter how hard you try. And the people who have been trying are going to look back on this moment with a lot of regret because they were on the wrong side of history, and history does not forget. Before you go, I just want to take a quick second to say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to hit that like button. It truly makes a massive difference for the channel, and it helps more people find this content. And if you are not already subscribed to WNBA XTRA, please hit that subscribe button right now and make sure you turn on the bell notification so you never miss a single video. Every like, every comment, every subscription genuinely means the world to me and helps this channel grow in ways you would not believe. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments. Do you think Caitlin Clark made the right call rejecting the WNBA Sisterhood? Do you think Monica McNutt's take was fair or completely out of line? And what do you make of the Seattle situation with the rally and the death threat claims? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment and I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the very next one.
It says if sisterhood means one woman has to carry the weight of the entire league while everyone else gets the benefit of grace, then that's not sisterhood. It's selective accountability. You can't demand unity while expecting a 24-year-old to fix problems she didn't create. I've grown used to turning my credentials backwards during Fever games here in Seattle so fans wouldn't recognize me. But now I'm fully afraid to go to the game tomorrow and might just skip it completely since I received multiple death threats from this group last week. It's what they are saying, but what I do believe is that when it comes to Caitlin Clark don't need to say nothing about nothing no more. Caitlin Clark has said enough. Caitlin Clark just needs to play basketball and do her thing.